Good evening and welcome to the live exchange. I am Dr. Pamela.
And I am Robert Pierce.
And yes, and it is a Mother's Day show.
Happy Mother's Day to everyone.
Yay, thank you. And happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to one of our guests as well, Erica.
Absolutely. Happy Mother's
Erica
Day.
Johnson.
Did you have a good day today?
It was a very good day today. I got a surprise drive-by from my parents who dropped off potted plants. They had their masks on. They wouldn't come near me, but they drove an hour to come here. So that was awesome.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes, special Happy Mother's Day to my mom. I was going to do the same thing to them. I'm so glad I didn't do it because we would have been driving.
Yeah, I would have driven. That would have been crazy.
An hour, and both of us would have been mad. So, so yeah, it was wonderful. So today, everybody, we've got a great show. It's really just kind of navigating this thing called life, and inspired by a book that Robert wrote a while back.
2014, I wrote the book. It's still in my closet.
And it is so relevant. I mean, navigating this thing called life. What is this thing called life right now?
Yeah, just like in life, when I wrote the book, oftentimes when you are driving and using your navigation system, where you are doesn't look like where you're going. You may find yourself, riding along through life, and you look up and you're like, whoa, what am I doing here? But that doesn't mean you give up. You keep moving because you're going through to get to your destination. Don't be alarmed by what you see right now.
Oh, that's so good.
Keep going.
So good. And, and that is exactly the reason why we have the two guests that we have on today. We have Erica Johnson, who is the CEO of Positive Vibe Management. And we have Queen Saraja, who is an artist under Positive Vibes Management. And both of them know a little something about navigating through this thing called life. And I know Erica personally, and some of the things that she and I both overcame, just being young single moms at one time, and now being these, this amazing, robust, powerful woman that we both are. So what did it take for us to get from where we are to where we are today, and where we were to where we are today? So we're going to be talking a lot about that and how we've navigated through life, and also looking at that from the context of Robert's book. And so Queen being a product of her mother, I just can't wait to also talk to her, because I remember when she was born. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. We've got lots to cover.
Yeah, we got lots to cover. We got trending topics. We got the research. We got the balance challenge. It's going to be fun. So everyone stay tuned, share the broadcast, and we'll be right back on the live exchange. Welcome back to the live exchange. I'm Robert Pierce.
And I'm Dr. Pamela.
Dr. Pam, what do we have today for trending topics?
Woo. Okay, so we can't not do this show, or we can't do this show and not talk about, what's trending in Brunswick, Georgia.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and with Ahmaud Arbery. And, it's interesting because this situation happened in February. And I believe it was like the end of February. And, when I heard about it, I actually heard about it 2 weeks ago. And even then I said, why is this not trending? And let me just, for those of you who have been not focusing on the news, I totally get that, but you need to know what's going on. Basically, there was a young Black male jogging. I believe he was 25 years old. He would have been 26 this past Friday. And surveillance video recorded minutes before his death, in which he was gunned down by two white men in a pickup truck in the South. Like, that is just a little too cliche.
Right.
And they say that they were chasing him down because there had been a number of thefts and burglaries going on in the area. They were sure that he was the guy. So they decided they would pursue him and do a citizen's arrest. What's interesting is I've seen Facebook groups go around, pop up for people who are in support of these two gunmen who were finally arrested on Friday. And one of the groups said something to the extent of all he had to do, and they're talking about Ahmaud Arbery, was just comply to some simple commands. As if it's a dog, and so there's so many levels to this, and part of the reason why they didn't get arrested ahead of time or earlier was because one of the gentlemen, I'm not going to say gentlemen, one of the men was a district attorney investigator, and he's very close to the district attorney. So the case is tainted from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So here we are 2 months in, and who knows what kind of evidence has been swept under it. To me, it doesn't matter. It is a clear, cut and dry, open shut case. But I'm going to stop talking.
No, I'm glad you're doing the talking so I don't get in trouble, when I go on my rants. So thank you for that. But it's just again, senseless, and it's just highlighting the racism that is still prevalent within this country, and it's systematic now. It's systematic, and so something has to be done. I'm tired of marching. I don't want to march. I don't want to sing Kumbaya. I don't want to light no candles. I don't want to put nobody's face on no T-shirt. We got to figure something out, because we're dying. We're getting killed here, time and time again. And I saw another story, and I hate to move from that, but there was another young man that also was gunned down. I don't even know the specifics, but this is happening too much, and I'm tired. And I don't know what we need to do, but we need to do something really quick.
Yeah. And I don't know what happens quick, but I feel you. I mean, we got to do something. I want to bring in Erica and Queen into this conversation, and I will tell you, I will give them the grand introduction shortly, but I really want to give them opportunity. We
Absolutely.
See your fingers, Erica.
My fingers. I'm sorry. I was texting. I'm so sorry. Let me get out of here. Can you guys see me now?
Yes. So basically, Queen, I would love to hear, how old are you? You're 20?
I'm 24.
And I just want to hear from the perspective of, somebody who is really in his generation, and which has happened. What are your thoughts about this?
It's very frustrating, and it's very sad. Over these last few years, honestly, I graduated high school in 2014. I started losing friends at around that, that age group. We're 17, 18, and, I have all my young Black male friends around me, and knowing them, knowing their families, growing up with these people, seeing that this is the country that I live in, and this is how my peers are being treated. It hurts. Seeing this video, I was watching in disbelief. I was very upset when I saw it. It just it doesn't make me happy. I'll give you guys that. And like Mr. Rob said, I don't know at this point what we can do. I have the highest hopes for my generation, but if I go on a rant, I'm going to get deep into the rap music, the music that they're putting out right now, that these young kids, they got to know. It's just so much, you guys. It's so much.
Yeah.
I
know exactly where you were going. Yeah.
You know where I'm going, and it's I want everything to be peaceful. I want everything to get back to a place of peace, but I don't know how that's going to happen right now. And I'm trying to, there's this pandemic, there's the coronavirus, there's so many different things to distract us even from this situation right here. The fact that it happened in February, the fact that these guys are just now getting arrested, it's too nonchalant. It's just too much. It's too much for me to touch bases on. I get very angry about these type of things.
We're going to take it in chunks, and but you said a lot there, and but we're going to continue this conversation, and we're not done with this yet. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
We'll be back.
All right, welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela, and
Robert Pierce.
There she is. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into a little bit of research. So one of the things that I think we're all going through right now is this idea of transition, right? We are transitioning into what it means to go from we can go out and do whatever we want, have a good time, to quarantine. I know California, and what I didn't mention is that Erica and Queen are in California. So very different experience than what we're going through here in Georgia. And I've talked to some of my California friends, and they're like, well, it depends on who you talk to. Some are like, nope, I'm glad the governor is taking charge. And others are like, this is some, and we want everything to open. This is crazy. So, I guess it depends on who you're talking to. But regardless, we're all in transition. Right. So the research that I'm going to share with you all today is what is called Schlossberg's transition theory.
Schlossberg? Did I say it right?
I'm impressed. Yeah, because I was like worried I wasn't going to say it right.
Schlossberg. Got it.
Schlossberg, and I said it wrong just then, but Schlossberg transition theory, Emily Schlossberg, I have to point out, this is a woman. Okay. And the theory is basically that it's looking at how people go through transition, and the way that we go through transition, according to Dr. Schlossberg, is there are 4 different elements that impact the way we go through it. There is the situation itself. There is the strategies that we personally use. There is the support that we have, and then there's self, like who am I as a person? And so when we look at that and we are able to kind of look at, okay, so how does who I am as a person impact my transition? Now, right now, we have all our certain aspects of our demographic and who we are has been impacted in a way that's going to impact white people differently. And I'll just say that because now we've got this shooting with Arbery while we are in quarantine, which has a different feel and a different meaning, still the same outrage, still the same, but it's now we're in quarantine. And so when we look at transition and we look at that S that stands for self, our race now has a whole different dynamic as it pertains to being in quarantine and dealing with this transition. Because now our race has been, under attack once again. And of course, there are some of us like me who would have liked to thought that maybe this hate could take a hiatus while we're in quarantine. That was a very naive way of thinking, but nonetheless. So that's the self piece of it. Who are you? What do you bring to the table? And how does that impact your transition? There is the situation. What is the situation for you? So everybody's dealing with quarantine differently. Some people are in a house with 10 people. Some people are in a house by themselves. Some people lost their jobs. Some people are thriving because their job is an online job. So everybody's situation is different. So that's going to impact how we get through this transition. The other S is support. What kind of support do you have? But also, what's the measurement of that support? Support in terms of babysitting, perhaps, for people who have to go back to work, but then maybe they only got a babysitter for a week and they've got to figure it out the week after. Or support in terms of money, or support in terms of just moral support. I got to get on and talk to my friends every now and then. So what does that support look like? And then the last one is strategies. What are your strategies? I have some very specific strategies for getting through this transition, which is prayer, which is walking every single day, getting 10,000 steps on my Fitbit every single day. And so what are your strategies? So those are the things: self, situation, support, and strategies that really kind of dictate how we go through this transition. So that's the theory.
Wow.
Anybody have anything to?
That was a lot. But I love I'm gonna jump to support because in this time where people are, like, as you said, various situations, they're home, some are alone, some are in some bad situations. They're in prison right now. They are living with terrorists. And so we have to be very conscious that everyone's situation is not the same. And, in the support, for me, it just came, and I want to say this, on Friday night. My family, we decided to have a virtual family reunion. We live all over the country. There was folk. I'm here in Atlanta. All my people in New York, but we have family in Oregon, West Coast, and we got on Zoom and we just supported one another and just loved on each other. Made sure everybody was okay, and it was a weight lifted off of me. And so I know we got to go now because we got to come back. We got to take a break. But when we come back, we talk some more with our guests. We're gonna have some more. It's gonna be fun. We're navigating through this thing called life. Tell your friends that we're here on the Live Exchange Radio program with Dr. Pam and Robert Pierce. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Robert Pierce.
And I'm Dr. Pamela.
And Dr. Pam, we've been talking about a lot so far, about what's going on in Brunswick, Georgia, and just, the times with this coronavirus, we're still surviving. And I want you to come in and introduce our guests, and let's continue the conversation. Let's have some fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so we have got Erica Johnson. She is the CEO of Positive Vibes Management, and Erica and I go back to singing in the choir.
Wow.
At Loveland Church in Fontana, California, and that was great memory. I loved that church and that experience in our time. And so, and then Erica, were you and I in a little solo thing? Come and join the chorus. Mighty, mighty chorus.
Y'all had a group?
Mighty chorus. You remember that?
Uh-oh, y'all had a little group.
Uh-oh. So, yeah, C-Dub, may he rest in peace. He was our choir director. And he actually kind of pulled us into we got to do our little performance. It was kind of fun. So anyway, Erica, can you tell us who you are? And then let's give a little time also to your amazing daughter, Queen, as well.
Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Oh.
Hey, everyone.
Go ahead, Erica. Go ahead.
So I am the CEO and founder of Positive Vibes Management, which is a management company for artists, musical artists, musicians. I was thinking about branching out because I've had people hit me up about managing them, like comedians and things like that. But right now we're just solely artists.
Okay.
I've been in corporate America for years in property management. And you guys know, all of you guys who've been in corporate America, the BS being a Black woman, first of all, a woman, and then being Black. And I just got tired of it. And I said, you know what? My dad left corporate America. He became a successful entrepreneur until he retired. And I said, you know what? That's for me. So I decided to just go ahead and leave corporate America and do what I know I'm called to do. God's given me so many gifts, and I just feel like I'm going to utilize that. I'm not going to be working for anyone, making them rich, sending them on these vacations while I'm begging for time off. Like, come on now. So I said, I'm going to do me. So that's what I'm doing now. So we're, definitely looking to make our name, let the world know us in the upcoming and very near future.
That's a huge step to take, and I really commend you for that. And so, on your label, or is that the terminology? Robert knows the terminology better than me. Would be company. Under the company or under your management,
on her roster.
On your roster. It's Queen. It's Queen Saraja, and so Queen, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what is it like to be under your mom's management?
Well, yeah, that first, I'm 24 years old. I'm from California as well. I'm a singer-songwriter. I started off writing poetry first. Back when I was a child, like a young kid, I used to like writing. And I used to just read my poems, read my poetry to my family. It turned into singing through church with my mom. She knew I could sing, and my children's church also. So they asked me to start singing solos for them. I was around like 6, 7 years old, singing in front of the church. So from there, I just kept going, and I gave myself some time till I turned about 18 years old to actually start working on like just doing my own thing, because I wanted to be done with high school first, and just be mentally like, available for it. I wanted to invest time into it. So now I'm working on my first EP, and I'm going to drop a mixtape before that.
I'm the dumb one here.
It's just like it's okay. I didn't know what it was at first either. But yeah, it's pretty much like a short little musical project where you have about, some people put 3 songs, some people put 5. So I'm gonna do, I want to do 5. A lot of people are telling me that's a bit long for an EP, but I don't know. I'm gonna go for it. And yes, I have that project coming. That'll be out in August. So I'm working with my mom is crazy. My mom and I can imagine, mother-daughter duo. It gets intense, but my mom is my best supporter, my biggest fan. She gives it to me straight. It's not sweet. It's the best person to have on your team, because this is the person that's going to be real with you 100%, at least, in my case. And I'm sure everybody can say that about, their mom. So I love it. I love my mom being my manager. It's just crazy.
I love it. I love it. Wow. So in terms of, and Erica, you and I kind of talked about this, during the break a little bit, single mom, and is that because I said at one point, I just forgot about that title. That used to be like my badge of honor. Like, I am a single mom. I got this. And then at some point it turned into, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a professor. I'm a writer. I'm an author. Mom was always has always been integrated in that. But single mom, for some reason, as a label, has fallen off. And I'm just curious to know what your take on that is.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I don't even like to be put in the single mom, category. I feel like there's a stigma, because when people say single mom, there's always the struggle that comes with that. There's always the hardships. Like, oh, okay, wait a minute. I've been a single mom from the beginning, like you, Dr. Pam.
I think we were pregnant at the same time. If your daughter's 24, my son is 24, and I'm like, were we pregnant together? Okay, go ahead.
And I mean, hello, right? And back then, it wasn't. Back then when we were pregnant, it wasn't like a trend. It wasn't cool to get pregnant, so we were looked at like, oh.
It's like,
those
are the church girls pregnant.
I had to sit down. They set me down. But you know what though? Single mom for me, I never had that struggle. I never had that that whole oh my God, I'm a single mom. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? Because like Robert was talking about earlier, the support. You and I both have always had a lot of support.
Yeah.
And I think because of the support that I've had from my parents, from the people like my friends, the people around me that, love me, I was able to dodge what the stigma of being a single mom is. So for me, when people talk about single mom, I don't think I can relate, even though I am. Like we said, we are single parents.
Absolutely.
But I can't relate to the struggle part of it. So I guess that's why I don't really, when they're talking about single parents, I don't even acknowledge that.
So that's interesting, because and this is where our situations are a bit different, because I definitely had the struggle, and it wasn't because for a lack of support. It was because I told my parents, I got this. I'm gonna go ahead and move to the other side of the state, and I'm gonna figure this out. So I made a huge choice, which was one of the best decisions I've ever made, because I went away to college. I figured out life. I remember having to hand food stamps to the cashier on the way to class, and them looking at me like, oh, and you one of them, and it was just so I definitely experienced that stigma, and I definitely I don't want to knock the people who have had the journey, or who are on that struggle journey, but for some reason it just hasn't been at the forefront, like single mom. But I am 100% single mom, so interesting. I mean, it's just very, very interesting. So yeah.
Ooh.
So
that was crazy that you did decide to go across the end of to the whole other side of the country. Like I was like, woo, when you did that, but
because I'm crazy.
But
when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. So stay with us.
We'll be back.
All right. So every week we do a balance challenge, and really so we can figure out how to better balance our lives and do better and grow and improve every single week. And so this week's Balance Challenge is actually brought to you by Peasy Heads. And Peasy Heads is a natural hair salon and is known also for her not infamous, because that's a bad thing, but her famous and amazing lemon butter cream. And once you get your hands on that and get that in your hair, and it smells so good, like lemongrass. So definitely check them out. Peasy Heads is also responsible for this amazing hat in honor for me, Mother's Day. Dog mom. Very excited that we just got a little puppy 2 weeks ago.
Congratulations, Prince.
And yes, Prince. His name is Prince. And actually, it's for my daughter. I keep, I kind of take it over. But so this week's Balance Challenge is in kind of in light of the transition theory, those 4 S's: support, strategies, self, and I always forget the last one when I try to say it fast. But those 4 S's, and somebody will think of it. But what I want you to do this week is I want you to be very strategic about your transition. How are you going through this transition, and what strategies can you put into place to make sure that you can get through this week? One of the things that I recommend is not thinking too far ahead. What's going to happen in October if this thing is still going on? All that does for us is add anxiety and stress. So what I want you to do is think about this week, between today and next Sunday. What is your strategy for making this an amazing week, regardless of what your situation is? What is your strategy? So I really want you to focus on that strategy element of the transition theory. Of course, taking into account who you are as a person, the self piece, your race, your background, your culture, your religion, but strategy-wise, what are you going to do this week? So that is your challenge for this week.
I accept.
I accept as well. So let's check in with us. Yes, and let us know how it goes.
We'll be
right
back. Welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Robert Pierce.
And I'm Dr. Pamela, and I'm here, and I'm alert.
Yeah. We have 2 special guests with us today. We have Queen Saraja, and the recording artist, up-and-coming new artist, and her manager, her mom and manager, Erica. Welcome to the Live Exchange radio show.
So I have a question
for Queen, and I know Erica could probably better answer this question, but Queen, I know you've been getting this question your entire life, and I think you're like, I know what you're about to ask me. Your name. So I remember when you were born and Erica said, I'm going to name her Queen. I said, and so it was like anybody named Queen before, and not just Queen Saraja as your full first name. Talk to me about the journey of being named Queen Saraja. How powerful is that? And why you were named Queen Saraja.
Oh my gosh. My mom gave me a name. She gave me a name. My great grandma, her name was Queen Annie. So, my mom, she wanted to name me originally Saraja by itself. But my grandma, she lost her mom when she was a young girl. Her mom died about 40 from a heart attack. So she wanted me to have her mom's name. So when my mom was getting ready to have me, she was telling my grandmother, I wanted her to be named Queen. And, she was telling her she wanted me to be Saraja. My grandma was like, well, you should name her Queen after my mom. And she did. Wow. She went with it. So, yeah, that's made it, it's made it, I love my name. I love it. It's taught me a lot, just the name alone that my mom gave me, and being a young female, growing up with the name Queen, you start off not understanding how powerful that name is. And you have to grow. You have to become it. It's something that you have to embrace and you have to embody. So the name holds a lot of power, and I'm thankful for the name. And, it's been crazy also for school purposes, because, I used to get in trouble for my name as well. Like, I'll tell a teacher or a lunch lady, my name is Queen, and they think I'm giving them a fake name. So I've gotten in trouble for it. I've gotten, a lot of people have gotten it wrong, but, it's definitely, it's been a fun experience holding this name. I'm thankful.
Wow. Amazing. Wow. Amazing. Mom, have you had to come? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. My mom actually, her grandmother wanted me to name her Queen Annie. And I was like, oh God, no. I'm like, that's so old and country. I said, Mom, I'm not gonna name her Annie. But I said I'm gonna name her, I'll do the queen part and I'll name her with Saraja. So I'm like, it worked.
That's
So
beautiful.
but the thing about her name, a lot of people, just like she said, they don't think Queen is her name. And
Yeah.
they will call her Saraja. And I'm like, wait a minute, her name is Queen Saraja. That's her first name. So I think people sometimes just think like that's the thing to do now. Everyone's queen on social media, queen this or I'm a queen
Ah,
and queen.
Right,
So
right.
they don't call her Queen Saraja. A lot of times I just hear people saying Saraja, and I'm like, no, her name's actually Queen Saraja. It's on her birth certificate from the beginning, 1995,
wow.
boo.
Hello.
Wow.
I love it. Well, I have found myself throughout the show just calling you Queen. So correct me. Should I be saying Queen Saraja?
You can call me Queen because you have known my mom for so long, and that's what I go by with people that just
Yeah,
But Queen Saraja is that's my name. That's
I love
my
it.
everybody calls me Queen Saraja, but you can call
Awesome.
me Queen. You guys can
Well,
call me
Queen
Queen.
Saraja, I want to hear about your musical inspirations. Where are we getting this music from? Where is it birthed from?
It's birth originally from my mother, my mama, because my mama was always singing.
Hmm.
But it's from the artist that she played while we were kids. And Prince is my favorite artist. Prince is like
Okay.
my number one favorite.
Yeah.
We just
Then
named our dog Prince, by the way. Okay, go ahead.
I heard and I was like, wow, like that's a great name. I love it. I really do.
You and
Then,
my son are going to get along really well. Y'all got to meet. My son has his whole look is Prince. He has his long
Okay.
hair, long. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I got to
what?
introduce y'all. Yes.
Does he have Dr. Pam? Does he have the moves like Prince? Can he move like Prince?
I don't know. He won't show
Uh-oh.
me, but he does. His hair is pressed and Prince. It's Prince. But anyway, go ahead, Queen.
Oh my goodness. I'm like caught up in Prince too. Oh my gosh. Stevie Wonder, and then, musically, I say Stevie Wonder for, he can play, he can sing.
Yeah.
Same thing with Prince. True vocalists are really like part of my inspiration. I love just with the Erykah Badu and Jill Scott, both of
yeah.
them.
That was so good.
And then, if we're gonna talk now, I say I'm into more so like, rappers but I like Kendrick, I like J. Cole, but they're part of my inspiration too. It's just there are different inspirations.
It's all love, absolutely.
Yeah. And as a singer, I try to incorporate a little bit of everything. I think when I write from a poetry stance at times. Sometimes I write from a stance of just mentally, just what's on my mind, based off experiences. It just comes the way it does from, and I feel like it's from a lot of those artists, just watching how each one of those artists kind of do something, like they have their own specific way of doing something. There's not one other artist that's like that artist.
Right.
And I think that's what attracts me to the type of artist. I mean, like it attracted me to them, and it's what's shaped me as an artist now.
Awesome.
What's your specific way? I'm sorry, Robert.
I'm sorry. My question was because I heard you say that you're a poet. So when you sit down to write, are you writing poetry that's going to turn into songs? Or are you just writing poetry? Or are you just writing songs? What's that process? Talk about that.
Love that.
Wow. The process with writing a poem is not one of my poems have ever, I believe, turned into a song. It's weird because I separate it. So
that's what Erykah said last night. Erykah Badu said that last night.
Yeah, I separate it. I've never written a poem with the intent of it being a song, because it's like I'm just, when I write, I write. I love writing first. I love writing first, but when I write a song, it's more so a song can happen anyway. It happens. It's crazy the way it happens. It happens just like writing a poem. But when I write a song, you know, there's a melody in my head for it. Or I might have already started creating it before I started writing it, just based off a melody. And that melody has made me feel a certain way about a certain time. Or it's weird the way that happens. Writing a song is just, it could happen because I just heard a noise that put me in a certain place, and now I feel like writing. It's it's a crazy process, honestly, but poetry definitely separate from my music.
Okay.
Spoken like a true artist.
Dr. Pam, you had a question?
Oh yeah, I was going to say at one point, Queen, you said that you love that these artists that you admire have their own unique style, their own unique way of doing things. And I'm just curious to know, for you as an artist, what is your unique way of doing things? I've heard some of your songs on Instagram, and they are powerful and soulful. But how would you describe your unique spin?
I'm kind of in a stance of like musically, or like in a stance of like recording, like
musically. I think I'm thinking more musically. Like, what distinguishes you if I were to listen to an Erykah Badu or you from them?
Well, for me, I don't necessarily have like the genre that I'm going for. It's like I'm not going for one specifically. I just, when I write, I kind of write to whatever. Like, say it's an acoustic version of something, or it's hip hop, or I might write a rap song. Like, I'm kind of like a I'm not saying that they're not versatile, no disrespect in any way.
Right, absolutely.
Any other grades, but their versatility is crazy. But I feel like when I release my music, like this new music, it's gonna be more from a standpoint of like, how do I describe this? It's so crazy when somebody asks you this type of question, because this is anytime, because
you're in it, so it's probably hard
it's just her music. I get it. It's just your music.
Would it be fair for me to toss that question to your mom to kind of get an idea of how she perceives your style and your?
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, when people ask me what is her genre, I call it hip hop, HIPPOP, because Queen has such a range of sound. She can, channel her inner Paramore, or she can, go from that to Rochelle Farrell, or from Rochelle Farrell to Queen Latifah. Like, she raps, she sings, but if I was going to give it a category, it would be hip hop, because like, you have neo soul, you have rock. She's kind of like blended. She does a little bit of everything.
I can see that. I can definitely see that. Wow. Well, thank you. We have so much more to cover. So don't go anywhere, anybody. But we are about to finish out the first chapter. I'm thinking writing the first hour of the show and move into the next hour. So stay with us, and we will be back. All right, welcome back to the live exchange. We are in this second hour of
hour two.
Woo! And it's gone really fast. It's gone really well. Haven't even gotten into half the things that we want to talk about with our guests. Today we are talking about what it means to navigate through this thing called life. And we have joining us today Erykah Johnson, who is CEO of Positive Vibes Management, and Queen Saraja, who is an artist being managed with Positive Vibes Management, but also this also happens to be a mother-daughter team. Yeah. So what better time to have a mother-daughter team than
Happy
today.
Mother's Day to all the mothers.
Yes, happy Mother's Day.
Yes.
And this is my first dog mom Mother's Day. Here we go. If that counts.
Congratulations.
I never thought I'd be a dog person. So that's great. I'm wearing hats now. That's bad. So we are, talking about this whole navigating things called, this thing called life, which is inspired by the title of Robert's book that he wrote years back. Yeah. And Robert, the gist of that book, what kind of was the
The sole purpose of the book and the message is that no matter what you're facing, don't stop, don't give up,
Yes.
keep going. Um, just like your navigation system in your car, when you get the destination, it doesn't, because your destination is one place doesn't mean that you're not going to see some places and experience some things that looks nothing like where you're headed to. But
Right.
does not mean that you're on the wrong track. That does not mean you're off course. That means you are on course. Keep moving. Don't give up. It's not over yet. The best is yet to come. You're going to get to your destination. And I don't want to ramble, but you got me on fire now. But I got the
Go ahead.
inspiration from the book literally came to me on a cruise. Some years ago, I took my family on a Thanksgiving cruise, and we was on the ship, and my father and I was on the front of the ship looking ahead, and we saw this major storm coming. And I'm going to say this quick, and we was like, well, for sure he's going to turn. The captain is going to turn this ship, because on the right side and on the left side was sunny. It was beautiful, but straight ahead we could see a storm coming. And we stood there and we waited for the ship to turn, but the ship never turned. Before we knew it, we was in a storm. The ship was rocking up and down violently to the point that people got sick.
Oh.
And so the next morning, this went on all night. The next morning, I literally was hot, and I just so happened during breakfast, I was walking to get some breakfast, and I ran into the captain. And so I wanted to give him a piece of my mind. I said, "Excuse me, sir. I was on the front of the ship, and I watched you steer us right into the storm, and now people are getting sick, and you're ruining our vacation." And he was so kind to me. He was like, "Sir, can I explain this to you?" He was like, "Yes, I saw where the storm was, but prior to us leaving, we evaluated that the storm was not going to hurt this ship or anybody on the ship. Yes, you may got a little bit sick, but had we turned left or had we turned right, we would not have gotten to our destination, which was the Bahamas, on time. And so we evaluated that it was worth going through the storm so we can get to the other side." I lost my mind, and I went home and wrote the book.
Oh, I love it.
Come through.
I love it. Yes.
Yeah,
and so navigating this thing called life was birthed.
Yeah,
From
and
that
just the
experience.
various chapters is all saying just don't give up. You're going to face a lot in life. Queen Saraja, in the music business, you're going to face a lot. Don't give up. You're going to meet snakes. I promise you, you're going to meet them.
Woo.
Don't give
As
up.
entrepreneurs,
You're going to
yep.
meet liars. Don't give up. We got to go. We got to go to a break now. See, I was getting ready to start preaching because I'm also a preacher too.
He's also a preacher of my current church.
And so we'll be back. We're going to come back for continue the second hour. We got a lot of coming up. We got trending topics. We did trending topics. We got research. We got a lot of fun. We'll be back from the live exchange.
All right.
Calm me down.
Welcome back to the live exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela.
I'm Robert Pierce.
And today we are talking about what it means to navigate this thing called life. And Robert gave us an amazing layout about what that can look like. And I don't think any of us are getting on cruise ships right now, but
right.
That was a good
Yeah,
story.
and I'll make this real quick so I can finish up. I'm glad for the break because I probably was, would have been on my third point by now. It would have been offering time.
Hello.
But even I want to say this to everyone about this. Even in my book, and I'm not promoting it. I promise you, I'm not.
I'm promoting it. Navigating this thing called
I
life.
even talk about the dark times where you find yourself in life in the dark times, and I found myself. There was a time where I attempted to kill myself, put a gun to my head, and pulled the trigger. And so I speak about that, and I really want to talk about it now because suicides are up now as we're being quarantined. And even in this time, whoever is going through whatever you're going through, I promise you, it's not the end. Don't give up. Live another day.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Try
yes.
another day.
Just
Try
get through
another day.
Mm-hmm.
Try another day. Before you know it, it'll be a year, and things will change. I promise it will change, but you got to live to see it.
Yes.
And so don't make a permanent decision on a temporary situation.
Amen.
That was
That's good stuff.
the whole quest of the book.
That is good stuff. And that is what we're talking about on the show today, about, what it means to navigate this thing called life. And just to give you all a heads up, I did ask Erica, look, if you could pick whatever topic, you want to talk about on today's show. She did mention relationships. So we are going to get into that during this hour.
Awesome.
Robert and I love talking relationships.
Yeah.
And I look forward to hearing about that from the standpoint of being in your 20s. Yep, I'm gonna put you on spot, Queen. And being in your 40s. Totally different experience. And Robert's in your 50s, but you're not dating. I mean,
I'm not dating.
I just put you out there, right? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I don't know if that was okay.
No, it's fine. 25 years of marriage, happily married 25
No, I meant
years.
by your age. I just threw your age
51,
out there.
51.
Okay. Yeah,
I wasn't supposed to be 18. Remember that?
Hello, that is a blessing.
Yeah.
So Erica, earlier in the show, we brought up the situation with Ahmad. What's his last name? Ahmad Arbery. And you wanted to say something about that. We didn't give you a chance, but I really wanted to get your take on that situation as well.
Okay, I was saying during the commercial break that I have a lot of love in my heart, but when it comes to racism and the things that we as a people go through, I have zero tolerance. I'm more on the Malcolm X side by any means necessary. I'm utterly disgusted by this situation because this is just the norm for our people. And it's so sickening to me. I mean, you guys are there in Atlanta, Georgia. We're in California. We have people walking into stores with the KKK mask on.
I saw that.
It's disgusting. And I'm to the point, the crazy thing is, I'm glad we have Robert here to kind of get that balance, because I try to always stay in the place of love. Love conquers all, love. But then it's like the fleshly human side of me, it's anger. And I know a lot of thank you, it's normal. But, I'm like he said, he's tired of the marching. I'm tired of
we lost her.
We lost her.
There she goes.
Going on to, can you guys see me?
Yes.
Can you guys see me?
Yes.
We can.
Can you guys can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got you.
So going on to, I can't hear nobody.
Okay.
Going on to internet and social media and putting hashtag Arbery, that's not enough. We've got to do more. And I think the problem that as a people we have is that we don't do enough. And we've got to do and take measures like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did, like Malcolm X did. They were willing to die, because when they stepped foot to protest, to speak, they knew that at any given moment they could die for the cause.
Yeah.
I don't feel like are willing to die for the cause. We just do enough to stir it up, but we're not really making moves. And I feel like it's time for our people to have some on the front line that are ready to die for the cause, because that's where I'm at with it. I can't hear you guys.
Okay. Well, no, that's good. And I think that part of the thing is with, we're in a different time era where, we are more independently thinking than I think we were in the civil rights movement era. We've got this era of, I got to get mine. I got to go. And there's nothing wrong with that in, to some level. We do have to take care of ourselves, but I think we lost that collective, we
Absolutely.
are one.
Yeah, the community. We lost our sense of community.
We lost the community. Yeah. And Erica's right. I don't know what we do about that. I don't know how we get the community back. I don't know if dying for it is the way that we have to do it nowadays, or I think maybe our strategy is let's be the Supreme Court justices. Let's be the judges. There's,
but then what does that get us? Now we got, war, now we, with civil war now, that doesn't work either.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what it is. I don't have the answer. If I did, I would have wrote the book. I would be on CNN.
Yeah, you would
You
be.
know, I would be. I'm not the expert, but I know what we're doing is not working. If our best thinking has got us here, something
Yeah.
has to change.
Woo, that's good. I know. Yeah. And so when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. But I am curious the perception of being in California and seeing these things kind of happen in Georgia. You know, Erica alluded to it, but when we come back, we'll delve a little bit more deeply. So stay with us.
Welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Robert Pierce.
I'm Dr. Pamela.
And Dr. Pam, let's go into the research. What do you have for us today?
All right. Well, so in the first hour, I talked about transition theory and really just looking at what it takes for us to go through a transition. Some people go through it smoothly; they glide through. Other people struggle immensely. And by the way, this research is brought to you by Shalon Willis Beauty Architect. She is the official makeup sponsor for the Live Exchange, and she is amazing and phenomenal. And so definitely check her out. She is Beauty Architect in every social media platform. But this hour's research is looking at what Robert had mentioned earlier, was that the suicide rate has gone up. And not only has the suicide rate gone up, but of course, the calls to, for the crisis hotline has gone up significantly. I think it's 900% that the calls, 900%.
Wow.
So if we think about that in real numbers, like what does that look like? That is, so on one hand, it's a really good thing that people are calling. On another hand, it's very telling that people are calling.
Yeah.
And so that's the crisis hotline. As far as domestic violence goes, those numbers have gone up significantly as well in numerous states, in Texas, in Colorado, in Georgia. I mean, it is going up. And so we have to be, there's two things here. We've got to be vigilant about what's going on with ourselves. If we need to make those calls, if we need to do what we've got to do, we've got to be proactive about that. We can't brush it under the rug and say, well, I'm probably not that bad. Or don't wait till you get that bad. Don't wait. Be proactive in the moment. As far as from, even the, domestic violence, but as far as it's concerned from outside of yourself, if there are people in your life that you need to check on them.
Yes.
Find ways to just make sure that people know that they're not alone. I know we can't take on everybody's stuff. I definitely don't want you to do that. But I do, if we are well and we have the potential to be a resource for somebody, to refer them somewhere, to, let's be proactive about that, because if there was any time where that was needed and that's necessary, the statistics and the research is showing that time is now.
Now is the time.
Yeah. Go ahead, Erica.
I was just saying, right now is the time. So
absolutely.
I can't imagine being alone in a situation like this. And then on top of that, dealing with, mental issues or instability, So yeah.
Absolutely. Everything is exacerbated right now. It's whatever minimal thing. It's funny because people say, whatever issues you had before you got married, when you get married, woo, everything, you get to see it in full bloom. Well, that's what's happening now. Any kind of issues that might have been below the surface, whether it is from marriage or your job or your children or whatever it is, everything is in full bloom right now. So, what do you do? Now, the two of you are in California, and in California, we were I'll speak for myself, was in my own little bubble. And I heard things about the South. I heard things about the Midwest. I moved to Wisconsin from California. I did not know there were Black people in Wisconsin. Apparently, there is a whole city called Milwaukee where there's a whole lot of Black people.
Oh, yeah.
So I was kind of shocked. I thought the California weather, 70 degrees is cold. Like anything 70 and below, I'm wearing my big coat. Wisconsin, I thought if you got caught in 30-degree weather, you're about to die. On my trek to Georgia from Wisconsin, moving to Georgia, my biggest fear was exactly what we saw happen with Arbery and those the hate crimes. And so my stereotype about Georgia was deep South. I don't know, am I supposed to say yes, sir, no, sir? And people I came completely ignorant about what it meant to live in the South. So I'm curious to know, for those, because both of you have been in California your whole life, what is your perspective? Well, I think you might have moved to Arizona at one point, Erica. I'm not sure. But what is your perspective?
It was Arkansas. I went to Arkansas. My grandfather passed away, so that's kind of like Georgia, right?
Woo! Okay, so you've been out. So,
no doubt.
but I'm curious to know that, you know, from your lens and from your standpoint, what do you see in terms of what's going on in the rest of the world? And I'd love to hear this from an intergenerational standpoint, from Queen being in her 20s, Erica being in your 40s. You know, what is the rest of the country looking like to you from a California? Because if I was in California, I'd be like, look, my governor got us. We're good. But what are you thinking?
You know, let's talk about the generational, you know, differences. I'm in the house. Queen's in the house now, but but you know, I'm in the house, and I feel like people that are a little bit older, we're taking it a lot more serious than the younger generation is. And so I'm not, the people that are out here protesting, I don't get it, because for the majority that I see, we're all trying to stay indoors, stay sheltered in place. It's just the younger generation that I see that they don't take it as serious right now.
Well, I'm going to give Queen an opportunity to respond to that when we come back from the break. You're going to have a little time to think about it while we're on the break. And when we come back, we will hear from Queen.
We'll be back.
All right. Welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela.
And I'm Robert Pierce.
We were talking about what it means to navigate this thing called life. And our guests are CEO of Positive Vibes Management, Erica Johnson, and Queen Saraja, who is a musical artist. And we were just asking about, just kind of from being in California, you know, what it looks like in terms of how this whole thing is playing out. Erica mentioned that the younger generation really isn't taking care. I'll just throw in there that those protesters, they are not young. They're like old white folks in their 40s and 50s. But go ahead, Queen. Go ahead. Can you hear us, Queen?
It was breaking in and out a little bit. Sorry.
Okay, you're on. So what is your take on how this is all going in response to your mom?
Well, I think that the younger generation, I agree with my mom in the sense that they don't take things as serious. But also, the younger generation, I almost got into it earlier, it's just, my generation is just all over the place, like, as it is right now. And they have been that way for a long time. So I feel like with anything going on right now, the only way for them to learn is there's got to be some sort of influence on social media, the same way they do TikToks, the same way they do Instagram posts, the same way they do, like, you know, the stuff that matters to my generation is what connects with them. And unfortunately, there's so many people doing the same thing of everything. People, you have all these followers, just, you know, kind of just, I guess they're just living. That's what they want to call it. But it's also like, you know, at some point there's got to be some sort of discipline. And for us, we're growing up. We're not kids anymore. And the kids that are coming up twice as crazy. So I think that there needs to be some sort of influence that speaks to them and connects to them. I don't know what it's going to take for my generation to wake up. I really don't, because we've seen a lot. You know, we've experienced a lot.
A whole lot.
Yeah.
Just president, so much going on.
You know, I always say this, Queens, Saraja, and your generation, and probably the little bit older than you, were the first generation, let's think about this, to have access to information without having to ask permission.
Oh yeah.
You know, prior to these smartphones, you had to go to the library to get any type of information, and you had to ask permission for it. But when we open up the internet to the world, now everything is at everyone's fingertips. So, you know, younger folk are being exposed to stuff at an earlier age now. They're not even just being exposed; they're experiencing it. And so somehow, some way, we got to get a handle on information. Think about it.
Yeah,
It's the
absolutely.
information that we disseminate that sways everybody now. You know.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I know you want to say something, Dr. Pam. I was getting ready to go on a rant.
Well, I was just going to bring our producer Verses into this just briefly, if she can say something just about the generation, because she and Queen are not too far apart in age. And just curious to know, Verses, if you have a perspective on the generational piece.
Well, okay. All right. Well,
I didn't give her a heads up. I just threw her in this.
got to get my sound right. I think it's I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here. I feel like there is a group of people who are going out there wildly. Like as soon as they said, "Oh, Atlanta's back out," we got car meets. People are standing outside of Lennox.
Mm-hmm.
Why? But then we also have those people that are actually out there saying, like, "Listen, like, sit down, like." We have family members that's getting sick out here. We have, loved ones that are dying. But then it's like that burning question of like, I am like me, I do like industry work and stuff like that. And so like a lot of people are like, their palms is itching and just like, oh my gosh, like what am I about to do? We can only live so much. We can only see DJ so much. I'm ready to go out here. I'm ready to perform. I'm ready to do all this. But it's just like, is it going to be worth it if we like, we're going to be dying out here? As we saw, like, it turned into like, Black people can't get it, to like now majority of Black people are getting it. So yeah, like it's just like, it's like that like flip of the coin where you just kind of like stuck in between like a rock and a hard place.
Yeah. Whew. And that's huge though, right there. From Black people saying we can't get it to we are the most that's getting it. That's
information was disseminated, bad information.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Again, when we can just give information out without fact checking, and generationally we do this, and then what happens is everyone wants to be first to report and not right,
and not right.
Yes.
And so we you start to lead people on bad roads because we're moving, we're being twisted and turned on by every wind of doctrine. That's what the Bible says, that not to be tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine. But that's what social media has us tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine. And until we get a hand, and I'm not talking censorship. That's not what I'm talking about. Right. But there has to be a responsibility on information.
Absolutely.
As long as information can just be given out without any responsibility, we're going to have anarchy. And that's what we have.
Yes. And that's not an exaggeration. It could totally sound like an exaggeration, but it's not. That's what we've got going on right now.
Absolutely.
Wow. So, well, I don't know if this is my role, but I'm gonna just do it anyways. When we come back, I'm a Debo again. No, but when we come back,
that was supposed to be me. I'm sorry. I was you do it because I was coming down off of what I was talking about.
No, I was into that.
We are going to switch gears and we are going to talk relationships, and we're going to look at relationships from the standpoint of the generational differences, but also the question: when somebody cheats, do you cheat back?
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. Oh, stay with us. All right, welcome back to the live exchange. This week's Balance Challenge is all about transition. What does it take to get through this time of transition that we're in? And I talked a little bit earlier about transition theory that looks at several different factors in terms of what it takes to get through transition: self, strategy, support, and so forth. But what I want you to focus on is the strategies piece. And the strategies, what are you going to do this week between this Sunday and next Sunday to get through? What is your strategy? And I will just tell you that some of my strategies involve walking every single day, getting to my 10,000 steps every single day, making sure that I eat healthy. That is a huge part of my strategy. And as I tell my daughter, she laughs every time I say this, but I tell her, I am not about to gain 85 pounds while in quarantine. I say it every time. And so, but part of that is not just about vanity. It's about taking care of myself and making sure
Health,
that I'm strong,
right.
that if God forbid I do get this thing, that my body is ready
And can
to
fight
fight.
it off. Right.
Yes.
Yes.
So what is your strategy to get through this week? Talking to friends, blocking people who call me who I don't want to talk to. I mean, there is just, but what's your strategy? So this week, this balance challenge, I want you to devise a strategy and execute it to get yourself through this week. That's your challenge.
I accept that challenge.
Challenge accepted.
Makes sense.
All
We'll
right.
be back.
Welcome back to the Live Exchange. I'm Dr. Pamela.
I'm Robert Pierce. I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Okay. Okay. So we said when we come back, we're going to be talking about relationships and dating, and just looking at dating from different generations. And I just had to ask this question. So I'm single, I'm in a relationship, but in terms of just like dating and so forth, that's not something that I've really had to watch myself and my daughter do at the same time. She's 13 and she really could care less about a boy right now. At least that's what she's telling me. She could be, I don't know what she's doing right now, but that's what she's telling me. But so now you have an adult. She's in her 20s. She's dating. Maybe you're dating. What does that look like?
Well,
how's that going?
I'm definitely not dating.
Okay.
And I've been single by choice for a long time.
Okay.
But growing up, being, as we talked about earlier, a single parent, you have to be so selective with who you bring around, especially, it doesn't matter if you have a male or a son or daughter, you have to be selective for both.
Absolutely.
And so Queen can tell you, there were some guys, and not that many, I can count them on one hand, maybe 3, that she did not like, and I did not listen. And, going through that, because you have the mentality, I'm the parent, you're the child, stay in a child's place. But fast forward to looking at her date and some of the things that I've seen her go through in her relationships, I'm like, okay, you know what? They reflect some of the things that she saw me go through with these guys that she didn't like. And so I would honestly tell single parents that are dating, yes, they're kids, but listen to your kids when they're telling you certain things. We're in the Black household, growing up, you're seen, not heard.
Stay out of grown folks' business.
Yes, exactly. And so we didn't get to give our opinions. We didn't get to say what we did and did not like. And I've learned that it's just a different time, and you have to listen to your children. Had I listened to my children, I honestly think along the way, some of the things Queen, she's the only one dating right now, or she's not actually dating right now, but she's dated.
She's looking like,
you're
eligible today.
Let me clear that up. She is not dating. She is single, but she has dated, and I've seen some of the things that may have kind of spilled over into her relationships from the things that she saw from me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Queen, I'm silent because I'm waiting for you. Uh-oh. No, we can't hear you. I don't think we can hear. Oh, we can't hear her. We can't hear her. Okay. So until we can hear her, I'm just going to throw out another question. Oh, we've got a full screen of Queen. Okay. So, in terms of, and that's one of the things, I think that's such a key point that you made about listen to your kids. And that's kind of the opposite of what we experienced and what we were told to do, like, how dare we have a say?
Yes.
But it's amazing to me, some of the things that they see. I've had Joya tell me, and same thing, I can count on one hand and maybe 3 people that she's met in her entire lifetime. And no, I don't like him, Mom. And I'm like, you just being a hater. You like, stop hating, and she's right. Everything, she was right.
Yes.
And so they see things, and, we can't underestimate, not that we want to pull them in the room and say, so give me some relationship advice, but, but we do have to be mindful. We would be mindful. I think we should be mindful of anybody we bring our children around, that if they don't feel comfortable, if it's the neighbor, if it's an uncle, if it's an aunt, a cousin, if there is any reservation, we need to take that seriously. So why would we not do the same when it comes to dating?
Right.
You know? Queen, can we hear you now? Let's try.
Hello, can you hear me? Okay.
Yep, we can hear you.
I don't know what happened.
We got you back.
That's all right.
Sorry about that. So to touch bases on the dating thing, yes, my mom, from that standpoint, you know, I've seen people I didn't like her dating, but she's seen people she didn't like me dating, and I should have listened to her as well. So
we gotta listen to each other
every single time. But dating at a young age right now is just, it's just the reason why I'm shaking my head every time I hear the word is because once again, with my generation, there's not really much like to look for right now. Like these, and I'm not trying to, talk like negative about just my generation as a whole, because I'm in the equation, but I feel like a lot of people in my age group, they don't take the time to self-analyze. They don't take the time to get to know themselves truly. So
we did that too.
Yes, exactly. I've done it. It's taken me a long time. I'm starting to actually wake up, from just going through so much, realize I have to analyze myself. I have to focus on what emotions, I feel, why I feel this way. How do I control certain emotions? Everything. And I feel like a lot of the men for my age group, they don't take the time to get to know themselves. They don't. And therefore, and that's it's no rush right now. But, and that's another thing too. I think it's an issue is that everybody is rushing. Everybody is not taking the time to get to know themselves. And instead they're investing this time into another person at such a young age, to where it's like, I'm going to give you all of me. I'm going to give you everything, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But now you forget yourself. Now you've got two people who are with one another who are just going with the flow with each other and learning. You learn different things about a person when you're with them. So I think that I don't want to start going too deep into certain things. It's just
we might have to do a whole other show on this alone. Because when you talk about
show.
Two people wanting to give their all who they are, and they don't even know who they are yet. I didn't know who I was until 40. I'm like, that's who I am, and I'm still figuring it out. So I get it.
Yeah, I stood at the altar at 24 years old. I said I do.
Woo.
But the truth was, I didn't know what I should have said. I do to what? Because I didn't know.
Like, what am I doing?
What am I doing?
Right.
I did that at 27.
Right.
Thinking I need to have, I've been told my life, 2-parent household. I got to have a father for my child. So let me go ahead and walk down this aisle. We'll figure it out after. I know it's a hot mess now. We'll just figure it out after.
wow.
So Yeah. So we don't have a whole lot of time left on the show. Erica, I know that you said that you might have a question for Robert. Can I put that on? Can I put you in that spotlight right now? Yeah.
And I'm going to try to answer it quickly.
Okay. Robert, you're married. I've never been married. I've been proposed to several times. My parents have been married for over 50 something years, like Dr. Pamela's, parents. We come from that. I don't foresee that for me. Because my idea of a good marriage, this is what I think, would be I have my own place. He has his own place. We come together 2 and 3 times out of the week. Maybe.
Wow.
Yes. That's what I want.
Yeah, me too. Maybe we handle our business. We might have a date night. We, take care of those, those marital things. He might be able to spend the night. I can spend the night too, but I need my space. Is that realistic as a married man and a pastor? Is that realistic? And how do you feel about having and needing your own space, personal space?
That's a great question. And let me try to make sure I say this right. Can it work? I'm sure it can. Absolutely, it can work. Now, the question is, will you feel the same way that you feel now a year, 5 years later?
I'm pretty sure.
Fair. That's fair.
But I mean, because that may change now. However, I don't think I know I couldn't live in a separate house with my wife. So would it work for me? No, but I can't tell anybody in this world what will or will not work for them. It is their life to live. You're doing nothing immoral.
Okay.
You're doing nothing unbiblical. You just live in separate homes. I used to commute. I used to work in California and commute back and forth. So there was 2 years I didn't live with my wife, but we lived in separate quarters.
Mm-hmm.
You follow what I'm saying? It worked for that time. So whatever works. Long as it's moral, it's biblical, you're okay. Now you got to find somebody who's going to agree with that.
There you go. There's the Achilles heel.
That's the Achilles heel.
Well, I
agree with it and not be manipulated to agree with it. They agree with it wholeheartedly and not being manipulated just to appease you.
And they're loyal to the arrangement as well. They don't have some things going on in their house while you got things going on. Unless that's what y'all agree to. But that's a whole different conversation.
That's what you agree to. But I'm sorry, go ahead, Dr. Pam, because we got 3 minutes.
I was just going to say, we have 3 minutes. And I was going to say the reason why that might resonate with me, because I've been independent and single unmarried for the last 10 years. And I'm like, that sounds good to me, And so I get it. And I wish we can delve more into that.
Yeah, my question is, why get married if you want to do that? Just stay dating.
Well, because then we can't, biblically speaking, we can't do all the things that husband and wife would do if we want to be,
Yeah, I get it, but that's just the question. We're not going to go there.
Yeah, but you're right. That's a whole other show. And so we might just have to do that show. But before we leave, and Queen's not here, but I wanted to give her opportunities to sing and to give us. In the meantime, Erica, how do people get in touch with you? Are you accepting any? I know that for a while you were like, I'm not really accepting anybody. Are you accepting anybody for your management at this time? Can she hear us?
Hello.
Oh, Queen is back. Okay, Queen.
I can hear you.
Yes.
Can I get you to sing about a 30-second clip before we go of whatever?
Yes. Are you ready?
We are ready.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I thought you were mentally.
I can hear.
You got the world right now.
Oh, wow. Okay. You said 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going away for a while. I'll be back, don't try and follow me. I'll return as soon as possible. See, I'm trying to find my place. It might not be here where I feel safe. We all learn to make mistakes and run to them. Full speed ahead. No, you are not useless. We are just misguided ghosts. Traveling endlessly. The ones we trusted the most pushed us far away. Is that 30 seconds?
Woo! That voice.
Yeah. Amazing.
And a lot of people can't do that live. Oh my gosh.
Thank you for that. What an amazing voice.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, that was the perfect way to end the show. So thank you so much, Queen Saraja. I'm going to say your full name. Thank you so much, Queen Saraja. And thank you so much, Erica. And how can they reach you? Give us the hashtags. We got about 20 seconds.
I can be reached at on Instagram at Queen Saraja, QueenSiraja, and my handle is the same for Facebook and Twitter. All the same.
All right.
You don't have Twitter?
Awesome.
Yes, I just made a new one.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
And Erica, how do we find you? Oh, she's on positive vibes management. It's positive_vibes_management. And that's how you can find her on Instagram. So,
thank you,
all right. Yeah, no
Pam.
problem. Well, that is it. That's all we got. Thank you so much for joining us for today's show, Queen Saraja and Erica. We've got to have you two back for sure.
Yes.
Thank you
So
so much for having
you
us.
guys.
Thank you
Love
both. Thank
the
you,
show.
Mr.
You guys
Robert.
are
Thank you,
great.
You're
Dr.
welcome.
Pamela.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Pam. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Versus. You guys are
Yes.
amazing. Love the show.
Thank you
Yes.
so much, guys. Everybody, we will be back here every Sunday. We're here every week from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Live Exchange. Join us every week. If you missed the show, if you missed any of it, go to the liveexchangeradio.com and you can find everything there. But remember, when we dialogue better,
We do better.
we do better. Thank
Have a
you.
good week. See you next week.